In the quiet cold of an Alaskan winter night, the sky was suddenly illuminated by an unnatural blaze of light. Mike, now living a quieter life after his days in the Air Force, was outside his cabin when he saw it, a burning object streaking across the heavens, leaving a trail of fire that cut through the stars before crashing into the frozen forest a few miles away. Acting on instinct, Mike grabbed his heavy coat and emergency kit, aware that someone might need help and he could be their only chance. His old but reliable truck roared to life, and he drove towards the crash site, guided by the fiery glow against the night sky. Upon reaching the vicinity, Mike parked his truck behind a thick copse of trees and proceeded on foot. The air was thick with the smell of burnt metal and ozone, indicating that whatever had fallen was no ordinary meteorite or satellite. As he approached, he saw the wreckage of an alien spacecraft embedded in the ice and snow. Carefully, Mike climbed over the twisted metal. The hull was torn open, revealing an interior flickering with dim lights and panels covered in alien symbols. Inside, chaos reigned, sparking wires and the remnants of control panels were strewn about. Then, a faint moan caught his attention. Beneath a collapsed panel, Mike found an alien girl. Her skin shimmered like the aurora borealis above, shifting hues subtly. She was clearly injured, struggling to breathe. "Hang on, I'm here to help you," Mike said gently, though unsure if she could understand him. He carefully lifted the panel off her, assessing her injuries. She had a deep gash on her leg and multiple bruises, but nothing seemed immediately life-threatening. Using his emergency kit, he bandaged her leg and helped her into a sitting position. Her eyes flickered open, glowing softly with a light blue hue, focusing on Mike with visible effort. She spoke in soft, musical tones, clearly a language, but one Mike couldn't decipher. "No need to talk," Mike reassured her. "I'm going to get you out of here." She seemed to understand his intent, her body relaxing slightly. Supporting her, Mike guided the alien girl back to his truck. He laid her down in the back seat, covering her with blankets to protect her from the freezing temperatures. As he drove back to his cabin, Mike's mind raced. He knew he should report this to his former contacts in the military, but something held him back. She was vulnerable and alone, and for now, until he understood more, he would keep her safe and hidden. Back at his cabin, Mike settled her on a makeshift bed, wondering about the consequences of his decision. He looked at the alien girl, her chest rising and falling evenly now, and felt a growing resolve. He would protect her, no matter what. Inside the warmth of Mike's cabin, the alien girl, whom he named LRA, gradually regained her strength. The harsh Alaskan winter raged outside, but the sturdy walls kept the cold at bay. Over the next few days, Mike observed LRA's recovery, noting her resilience. He used an old tablet to document her symptoms and progress, thinking it might help in understanding her biology. LRA, in turn, adapted to her new environment, her initial wariness giving way to cautious curiosity about Mike and his world. Despite the language barrier, they began to communicate through gestures and expressions. Mike learned that LRA could understand some English, though speaking it seemed beyond her. One evening, as the aurora borealis danced across the sky, LRA pointed at it and then at herself. Mike nodded, realizing she was trying to tell him she was from somewhere in the cosmos where such lights were common. He showed her a map of the galaxy on his computer, and she pointed excitedly to a remote sector, tracing paths between stars. Her home was clearly far beyond human reach. Understanding the gravity of her situation, Mike realized LRA needed more than just medical help, she needed to send a message home. He rigged up an old radio transmitter, hoping to catch a frequency her people might use. LRA watched intently, occasionally guiding his hands to make adjustments beyond his understanding. The cabin filled with static as they worked, until finally, a series of sharp beeps broke through the noise. LRA's face lit up with joy and relief. She responded with a series of tones, and after a tense wait, a voice spoke back in her tongue. LRA conversed rapidly, her voice a mix of urgency and excitement. Mike, understanding none of the words, sensed the importance of the moment. When the conversation ended, LRA turned to Mike, her expression somber. She sketched vivid pictures of her planet, Valoria, and her people caught in a conflict. She pointed to herself and then to the images, indicating she was a key figure in the ongoing struggle, perhaps royalty or a political refugee on the run. The weight of responsibility settled on Mike, but his resolve strengthened. He would help her, no matter what. That night, as LRA slept, Mike pondered the enormity of what lay ahead. He had ventured into unknown territory, far beyond anything he had faced before. Yet, LRA's trust in him fortified his determination. They would face whatever came next together. As LRA's strength returned, so did her concern for their safety. News of the alien craft's crash had spread, and it was only a matter of time before curiosity or hostility brought visitors to Mike's doorstep. They needed to move, and soon. Early one morning, as the first light of dawn crept across the snowy landscape, Mike loaded his truck with supplies. LRA, now able to walk with assistance, followed him closely, her senses alert for danger. They decided to head deeper into the wilderness, to an old hunter's cabin Mike knew about. Isolated and off the grid, it would offer them a temporary haven. As they drove through winding forest roads, LRA's anxiety was palpable, her eyes constantly scanning for any sign of pursuit. Her fears were not unfounded. The crash had drawn attention, and the consequences of discovery weighed heavily on both of them. A sleek, dark vehicle appeared behind them, out of place in the rugged terrain. It was clear they were being followed. Mike pushed his old truck to its limits, but it was no match for the modern technology of their pursuers. Realizing they couldn't outrun them, Mike took a sharp turn down a less traveled path, hoping to lose them in the dense forest. The chase intensified, with the pursuer matching every move Mike made. Just as the situation seemed desperate, LRA pointed to a narrow pass between two cliffs. It was a risk. The pass was barely wide enough for the truck, but it was their only chance. Mike steered the truck towards the pass, branches scraping the sides of the vehicle as they squeezed through. The pursuer hesitated, giving them a few crucial moments to widen the gap. Emerging from the pass, they found themselves in a secluded area with thick underbrush. Mike drove the truck into a copse of trees, covering it with branches and leaves for camouflage. They continued on foot, LRA leading the way with surprising agility given her recent recovery. Hours later, they arrived at a hunter's cabin. It was rustic and bare, but provided the cover and security they needed. As they settled in, LRA explained that the pursuer was likely a bounty hunter from her planet, skilled at tracking and relentless in pursuit. Her people, the Valoran, were known for their technological prowess, making evasion difficult. Mike set up perimeter alarms and traps, relying on his military training and survival skills honed over years in the Alaskan wilderness. Meanwhile, LRA constructed a rudimentary communication device from parts salvaged from her ship's wreckage, which she had insisted on bringing along. Her plan was to send a distress signal to any Valoran ships in the vicinity of Earth, hoping her allies were searching for her. That night, as they watched the cabin's perimeter from the safety of its wooden walls, a new bond formed between them, forged in the crucible of shared danger. They were no longer just a man and an alien. They were comrades, each fighting not just for LRA's cause but for each other's survival. The days following their narrow escape were filled with restless vigilance. Although they had managed to avoid detection, the threat loomed like a shadow over their fragile sanctuary. Knowing they needed more help and resources, Mike contacted some old acquaintances from his Air Force days, people rumored to have encountered non-human technology. Within a few days, two former comrades, Jack and Sophia, arrived at the cabin. Initially skeptical, their doubts vanished when they met LRA and heard her story. Both had experienced encounters with unexplained aerial phenomena during their service and had been part of a covert group investigating such incidents. Sophia, with a background in communications technology, immediately set to work with LRA on enhancing the alien communication device. Jack, meanwhile, began planning defensive strategies, setting up more sophisticated perimeter alarms and camouflaging their location from aerial and ground surveillance. Their combined efforts paid off one evening when LRA's communication device, upgraded with components sourced by Sophia, picked up a faint signal. It was a coded message from a Valoran scout ship hidden in Earth's orbit, searching for any sign of LRA. The message was clear: help was close, but so was danger. The coup on Valoria had intensified, and LRA's enemies were using all their resources to track her down. The group decided to move to a new location to send a stronger signal back to the scout ship. They chose a remote mountain area known for minimal electromagnetic interference. The journey was risky, as they needed to transport LRA's delicate equipment safely while avoiding detection by the bounty hunter still relentlessly pursuing her. As they traveled to the new site, Mike and LRA discussed her home planet, her people's culture, and their technological advancements. LRA shared stories of Valoria's vast cities and bioluminescent forests. Mike, in turn, shared stories of Earth, its diverse cultures, and the natural beauty he had experienced. Their exchange deepened their bond, bridging the gap between their worlds. Upon reaching the mountain site, the team worked tirelessly to set up the communication relay. Jack and Sophia patrolled the area while Mike and LRA focused on aligning the device with the coordinates provided by the Valoran scout ship. After several tense hours, the device lit up, and a stable connection was established. LRA sent a message, calling for extraction and reporting the political turmoil on Valoria. Now, all they could do was wait for a response, hoping their signal reached the right ears and that help would come soon. In the quiet mountain night, under the watchful gaze of the stars, the group settled in, aware that the coming days would bring new challenges. But for the first time since her arrival, LRA felt a spark of hope, fortified by the unlikely alliance of Earthlings standing with her. The mountain hideout offered temporary solace, but the group was acutely aware of the precariousness of their safety. They spent their days fortifying the hideout's defenses and preparing for a potential encounter with the bounty hunter. Ira had sent a distress signal to her people, but the response was frustratingly elusive. One morning, while Mike was monitoring the area, he noticed something unusual on one of the screens, unexpected movement patterns suggesting they were no longer alone. It seemed the bounty hunter had picked up their trail again. Quickly, Mike gathered the group and outlined a plan to outsmart their pursuer using decoys and misinformation. Jack and Sophia set about creating false trails leading away from the hideout, while Mike and Ira worked on a more technological approach. Using parts from their communication device, they assembled small drone-like gadgets that could emit signals mimicking Ira's unique biosignature. They deployed these drones in various directions to confuse any sensors the bounty hunter might be using. Meanwhile, Ira felt a surge of determination. Despite her longing for home, she had come to admire Earth's rugged landscapes and the resilience of its people, qualities she saw reflected in Mike. Together, they fortified their bond, turning their shared struggle into a profound alliance. As night fell, the group monitored their traps. Hours passed without any sign of the bounty hunter, but they remained vigilant, rotating watch duties. Just before dawn, one of the monitors displayed a brief but intense scuffle. One of the decoys had been intercepted. Using the surveillance feed, they tracked the bounty hunter's movements. He was alone, which gave them a slight advantage. Mike devised a risky plan to intercept the bounty hunter at a narrow pass nearby, where Jack and Sophia had prepared an ambush. As they positioned themselves, the tension was palpable. The bounty hunter, cloaked in advanced stealth gear, was more formidable than they had anticipated. However, they had the element of surprise on their side. As he entered the pass, Sophia triggered a net trap, momentarily entangling him. The bounty hunter quickly cut through the net with a device emitting a concentrated energy beam. Before he could fully free himself, Jack and Mike closed in, and a brief confrontation ensued. Outnumbered, the bounty hunter was subdued and, under threat, he finally yielded. With the bounty hunter secured, Mike sought to gain insight into who had sent him. Realizing his situation was dire, the bounty hunter offered information in exchange for his release. He revealed that he had been hired by a rival faction on Valoria that sought to eliminate Ira to prevent her from reclaiming her rightful position in their society. This revelation was a double-edged sword, confirming Ira's importance and the lengths her enemies would go to stop her, while also underscoring the support she likely had back home. The group decided to detain the bounty hunter until they could ensure a safe extraction for Ira. As dawn broke over the mountains, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had not only survived another encounter but had also gained valuable intelligence. Ira's resolve to return and fight for her people grew stronger, supported by her Earthborn comrades who had come to share her cause. After the encounter, the group felt both triumphant and uneasy. They had captured a formidable foe and obtained critical information, but their challenges were far from over. The bounty hunter's revelations made it clear that Ira's enemies were determined and resourceful. The group needed to act quickly to secure her safe return to Valoria. With the communication device now fully operational and continuously monitored by Sophia, they awaited a response from the Valorian scout ship. Meanwhile, Mike and Jack focused on interrogating the bounty hunter, hoping to extract more details about the forces opposing Ira. The bounty hunter, resigned to his fate, revealed that a powerful faction on Valoria had orchestrated the coup, fearing Ira's progressive views would undermine their control over the planet's resources. He also disclosed that they were monitoring transmissions from Earth, meaning their location could soon be compromised again. Armed with this knowledge, the group decided to relocate to an abandoned industrial site Sophia knew about. Although less comfortable, it offered better defensive opportunities and was harder to access, providing a strategic advantage. As they prepared for the move, a static-filled response finally came through the communication device. The Valorian scout ship had received Ira's message and was planning an extraction. However, the situation was delicate. The scout ship needed to avoid detection by their adversaries, who had enforced a blockade around Earth to capture Ira. The extraction plan required precise timing and coordination, with the ship able to break through the blockade briefly to reach specific coordinates within a narrow time window. The group worked tirelessly to prepare. Ira, feeling the weight of her impending return, shared more about her hopes for Valoria. She envisioned a society where power was more equitably distributed and technological advancements benefited all, not just the elite. Her determination inspired the group, strengthening their resolve to see her mission through. On the day of the extraction, the group reached the designated coordinates, a secluded clearing far from any usual paths. They set up a perimeter while Ira positioned herself in the open, making herself visible to the scout ship's sensors. As the time approached, tension mounted. Everyone was alert, scanning the skies and surroundings for any sign of interference. Then, amidst a quiet that felt almost surreal, a faint hum grew from a whisper to a roar as the cloaked scout ship descended toward the clearing. As the sensors triggered an alarm, indicating the approach of another ship, the crew knew it could only mean trouble. The ship, no doubt sent by the faction opposing LRA, seemed ready for confrontation. The group braced themselves, anticipating a battle. However, just as the enemy ship came into view, the scout ship they were aboard unleashed a series of non-lethal countermeasures. These actions disoriented the attackers, providing enough time for LRA to be safely beamed aboard her own vessel. As she was transported away, LRA turned to Mike and the others, her eyes filled with a profound gratitude and a silent promise. The scout ship then disappeared as quickly as it had arrived, leaving behind a whirlwind of leaves and a group of Earthlings who had just played a crucial role in an alien civil conflict. Mike, Jack, and Sophia watched the sky, their hearts heavy but hopeful. They had done more than just participate, they had proven that humanity could stand as equals and allies with other races in the universe. As they packed up their makeshift base, they knew this adventure would change their lives in unimaginable ways. Mike felt a mix of relief and melancholy as they prepared to leave, realizing that their time with LRA had left a void. They returned to their temporary camp, each lost in thought about the unfolding events. LRA was now safe, en route to reclaim her rightful place in Valorian society. However, her absence was deeply felt. The following days were marked by a quiet, reflective atmosphere. Mike spent long hours gazing at the sky, wondering about LRA's fate and the future of her world. He thought about her vision for Valoria, her hopes for peace and justice, and how her struggles mirrored those on Earth. One evening, as the sun set, casting a golden glow over the rugged landscape, Mike's satellite phone buzzed with a message from LRA. Sent from her scout ship orbiting a safe haven far from Valorian space, she was preparing for the challenges ahead, gathering allies, and planning her return to power. Her message was brief but filled with warmth and determination. Mike shared the message with Jack and Sophia, who were busy packing equipment and discussing their next steps. The news lifted their spirits, affirming that the risks they had taken and the alliances they had formed were for a cause that extended beyond their immediate involvement. They decided it was time to disband their temporary camp and return to their lives, seeking the anonymity that had previously protected them and would now serve as a shield against any repercussions. As they loaded the last of their gear into the truck, Mike proposed a final toast. They gathered around a small fire, the night crisp and clear. "To new friends across the stars and to hopes worth fighting for," Mike said, raising his flask. Jack and Sophia echoed his sentiment, each feeling a sense of accomplishment and curiosity about what the future held for them. After returning to his cabin, Mike found it difficult to resume his old routine. The adventure had changed him, expanding his world in ways he couldn't have imagined. His home, once a sanctuary, now felt too small and isolated. He began researching more about space, reported encounters with alien life, and humanity's place in the broader universe. Weeks turned into months, and Mike's restlessness grew. He started attending conferences, connecting with others who believed in the existence of extraterrestrial life and the importance of preparing for a future where Earth was part of a larger community of planets. One morning, as Mike reviewed articles from a recent symposium on interstellar relations, another message from LRA arrived. Her tone was hopeful. She had secured a position of influence and was beginning to implement the changes she had envisioned. She spoke of Valoria, now on the path to recovery and unity, and extended an invitation: "Come see the fruits of our labor. See the Valoria I'm fighting for." Mike sat back, the possibility of traveling to another planet and seeing LRA again igniting a new spark within him. The idea was daunting but thrilling. He realized that his journey with LRA was not over, it was just entering a new phase. Determined, Mike began making preparations. He reached out to contacts he had made, exploring the logistics of interstellar travel. As he set the wheels in motion for his next great adventure, Mike felt a deep sense of purpose. He was no longer just a witness to history, he was a part of it, a bridge between Earth and the stars. As he packed for his journey to Valoria, he felt ready for whatever lay ahead, driven by the promise of reunion and the endless possibilities of the universe. The journey to Valoria was unlike anything Mike had ever imagined. As Earth faded into the distance behind him, he felt both a sense of loss and profound excitement. The stars ahead were no longer just distant points of light but gateways to new experiences and a reunion that had seemed impossible months ago. When Mike's ship finally entered Valorian space, he was struck by the beauty of LRA's world. Valoria was a planet of vibrant colors, with sprawling cities that shimmered under the light of its twin suns and vast, luminous forests that stretched into the horizon. His heart raced as the ship descended towards the capital, where LRA was waiting for him. Their reunion was emotional, filled with wonder. LRA greeted him not just as a hero of her world but as a dear friend and confidant. She showed him the changes her leadership had brought. Technological advancements once hoarded by the elite were now improving the lives of all her people, and the divisions that had once marred her society were slowly healing. In the days that followed, Mike immersed himself in Valorian culture and its people. He attended assemblies where policy reforms were discussed, visited academic institutions researching interstellar travel and environmental preservation, and walked through marketplaces where Earth's influence was already visible in the exchange of goods and ideas. LRA took him to the bioluminescent forests of Valoria, where they walked under the glow of its flora. It was here, in this surreal landscape, that they found a moment of peace. LRA spoke of her plans for the future, her hopes for an alliance with Earth, and her dream of a galactic community where beings from all worlds could share knowledge and live in harmony. As they stood watching a sunset that painted the sky with colors no earthly sunset could match, LRA turned to Mike and gently reached for his hand. "I knew from the moment you saved me that our fates were intertwined," she said. "Not just ours, but our worlds." Mike looked into her eyes, seeing the leader she had become and the friend he cherished. "I was just a man who found an alien in the woods," he replied with a smile, "but now I see a future I want to be part of, with you, with Valoria." They spent more time exploring Valoria together, each day strengthening the bond between them and between their worlds. As his visit drew to a close, the question of his return to Earth loomed large. But in his heart, Mike knew his place was here, on Valoria, with LRA. His life on Earth seemed a distant memory as he embraced his new role in this expansive universe. The chapter of his life that began with an unexpected crash had led him to a promise made under alien skies, a promise of shared destinies and a shared future. Mike and LRA stood together, looking up at the stars that had once separated them but now held the promise of their combined dreams, a testament to the power of courage, friendship, and love across the stars.